Greetings everyone. Hey, thank you for joining me. This is the Global Predictions series for April 2020. I'll be very interested to see what comes out in these cards, and I can't help but think our fairly much global attention is focused on the current situation with the pandemic issues. So I think technically even my mindset will be heading that way, and I suspect that collectively the conscious energies are also focused primarily on that. But it'll be interesting to see what cards come out from both of these two decks, and then to see what we are going to be focusing on or heading towards in this month of April. I'm sure more than anything else, none of us will forget April 2020. Let's start off with these ones. This is the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot deck. So when I first started doing the global predictions for the monthly series, I only ever used the Psi cards, but I started to incorporate some of these tarot cards in with the readings as well. So I will just pull a few and see what comes out. It's not so much necessarily me pulling them as ones that turn up, and I'm just not going to turn them face up yet because I don't want to be making any individual energy connections to the cards that are being pulled. So this is from Collective Conscious for April 2020. I'm liking the fact that I can see the rainbows across the card. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but they're coming from a crystal hanging in my window, and I sort of think of those as just positive, nice, glowing energies. So just one more from this deck for the April global reading. What energies are around us? What is collective conscious energies doing? What is Mother Earth doing? Okay, perhaps we will turn these ones over and have a look. The Eight of Pentacles. It's nice to start off with finances or a money type card. I think it shows that it's just a steady, slow, calm, very calm, a card of calm energy, very slow and steady procedure going on. This card is usually refers to quality of service or ability or craftsmanship, and that has come about through endurance, hard work, practicality, putting in the time and effort. So the card might very well be talking about that in terms of putting in effort and being practical and logical and being calm. Now it also is the number 8, so whether or not it's referencing a time frame of 8, as in 8 months before things change with finances, or whether or not we see a slow and steady, gentle return to positivity. But that was quite a good card to start with. I'll just move these over a little bit. The Hermit makes complete sense because basically we are all in this stage of the Hermit. So we have gone within for a lot of the globe. I think there's more than a third of the Earth's population at this present point in time in some form of isolation. New Zealand has just gone into a lockdown. We're all at home. Only emergency services and essential services such as supermarkets, pharmacies and petrol stations are allowed to be open, and you're only even allowed to leave your home to walk in the local area for exercise. So we are in full hermit mode, if you like, and I think a lot of the planet is, or the population of the planet. India, I think, goes into lockdown today. So when we go into the hermit stage, there's such a big amount of deep gratitude and soul searching that can come. It is a time of calm, of replenishment, of soul nourishment, of thinking, of pondering, of trying to sort out why things might be the way they are, of where you might come out of it and how you might be when you come out. It's not technically a bad card. We certainly know that traditionally with the Hermit you learn a lot along the way, and my own thoughts are that there will be a very big learning process that comes through this event situation. So it will teach us a lot in many different ways at the humanity level area, especially around things like mental health issues, because we will have an impact of that as we move forward, as well as dealing with global issues like this and pandemic issues, so health issues, but also financial as well. So he's not a bad card to have received. Well, that's nice. An ace, the Ace of Wands. This is concepts, ideas, creativity, spontaneity, action. So the Wands is often it comes through the fire sign energy, if you like, and the fire sign can be quite swift and decisive and full of action and ideas and movement. So given that we are all currently not moving and we're more like the Hermit in the background, this could be a really good sign of some sort of movement coming in April, and new movement and new ideas and productivity and excitement and taking things up a notch, which I like that. That's really good. Ooh, this is the victory card. So this is victory over something. So perhaps with all our efforts and everything else and the due diligence, the input, also that many other aspects and perspectives and dynamics play into this, perhaps this is saying victory is on its way. And certainly with an ace and the victory card, we're looking at a more positive feeling as April comes around. Certainly these cards at the moment are not boding particularly badly. So I'll put them over here, and we will have a look at the Psi cards, which have traditionally been the main cards that have been used for this reading. Of course, I understand that there are many more things still going on than just the pandemic, but I just don't know if I'm tuning into collective conscious enough to pick that up yet. We will see here in these cards, because they're often easier to connect with in terms of these global readings. The Moon and the Liar. There's quite a few popped out, but it's probably around about how many we normally would have anyhow. So the Warrior. I don't know if all of these are upside down or not. If they are, I think I will just turn them around the right way. The Sage. The Mother has been out for 3 months in a row. I don't know what that's all about yet. The Tree. The Cave. And the Fortune card. Overall, I've certainly seen worse. The Warrior is probably the most feisty of the bunch. He technically gives off this feeling of aggression and anger and hostilities, often up in the older parts of the planet, so around the Middle East or through Europe or up into Afghanistan, areas like that. But he can also represent weather issues or flooding, storms, dust storms, massive floods, so big weather systems. That could be a possibility of what he is playing into there. If if he's not weather or storm related or something geographical occurring, then he is a fighter and he does have a warring tendency about him. But in saying that, there aren't many other cards in here that have given off that feeling of war or animosity or anger at this stage. If we go to the next one, the Sage, we often think of this in terms of ideas and thoughts and processes and principles and protocols being put into place and some form of intelligence or structure. Now I'm thinking of this in terms of finding a way to attack the pandemic or a vaccine that comes up or other medication that can be used or a new way to deal with isolation or government policies or even finances globally. There is a lot of work going on behind the scenes within government agencies to try and stimulate the economy for each country that's involved. So believe me, there is work being done behind the scenes for the politicians, for the businesses, for the corporations. There's a lot going on. You get the fortune card, and there's this guy walking up a stairway that's quite dark, and he's coming up to the top to look in this treasure chest. So sometimes this can be, and now we're really seeing the swinging crystal going crazy on the desk. It's back and forth like a wild pulsing beam of light. It's almost as if it's giving us some message. So the fortune card to me suggests that there's darkness and unknown and a bit of gloom around the financial sector, but that something is trying to create energy or action. Sometimes this means there is time and it is a bit shut up or locked up, that fortunes may not be on the rise, but that more they might be on the decline or the downturn or the tightening up, because this spiral staircase is sort of tightening up. I know he's coming up, but he's still quite a wee way down. So the fact that of the matter could be that he's on the way to coming up a tight avenue, and that's not always easy, and it can be quite time consuming. The other thing that stairwell always makes me think of is tornadoes. So there might be quite a strong possibility of a tornado outbreak in April, and oftentimes that can be in America and the areas that are subject to it, but it could also represent other parts of the globe as well that have either unexpected tornadoes or things like dust storms or wind related issues. Because it's like a wind card, even though it's to deal with finances usually. The mother card, well, it's mothers, children. They do look very ill. If you look at their faces, they look frightfully ill, these people. They just don't look well. Mothers, children, babies, affected one way or another, which will be an event that takes place or several events that bring the attention of their plight into the light for people to understand or be aware of. I sometimes think this resembles Mother Earth, but if we're thinking how sick they all look, at the moment Mother Earth is doing so much better because of our inaction and lack of activity. So Mother Earth is technically having a great holiday. She could be feeling sad for us and sorry that we have come to such a precarious position. That might be the perspective you could take from that. But physically herself, this is a real positive for the planet. So unsure what more that could be. But right next to the mother, interestingly, we had the tree. So the tree can again represent nature. It's very red in the background, so often represents fire or heat. Now, I'm not sure where that could be. I know at the beginning of the year we started off 2020 in a real hellstrom of energies with the fires ravaging Australia, but technically it's much cooler there now and they have had a lot of rain, so I'm not entirely convinced that it's about mass fires in Australia. It could be heading up into the northern hemisphere, or there could be information about trees themselves, as in trees on the planet. But there's a possibility here that this could represent the family tree. Now, sometimes the family tree we often think of in terms of British royalty, because I think they call themselves something like the family, or I can't quite remember what the name of it is, but this could represent a famous family like that. And given that the mother card was right next to it, I'm wondering if somehow they play out in the month of April. Now, Prince Charles has just been found out that he has the virus. The Queen was moved to a different home than the castle that she normally resides in London. One of the staffers that worked with her actually had coronavirus as well. So whether or not the Queen gets it, and whether there's some symbolic energy here about the family, the British royal family, it could also have something to do with the children in the family, the babies, whether Meghan or Harry, whether there's still some issues going on there with the saga of the family tree. So maybe something pops up in April. It is the Queen's birthday in April. I think her birthday is the 20th of April. I think she might be 93 or something this year. So there might be something that goes on with that as well, just from thoughts or feelings. The cave is not dissimilar to the hermit in many ways. It's hunkering down, going within, feeling a little bit off emotionally because this person is really anchored in this cave and holding onto their heads and sort of saying, no, don't do this to me, get me out of my own head. It's almost like they can't deal with their own thoughts and emotions, and I think we might see a rise in this for people globally as we work through these periods of isolation, because some people are in not good situations when they are locked in. They might be in dangerous relationships or abusive relationships, or financially they might be finding things difficult, especially if their jobs are insecure now or might be made redundant, or if businesses they own are financially going through problems. So this cave has a tendency to emulate emotional trauma for people and feelings of isolation or depression or anxiety. Also feeling stuck and locked in a situation and unable to see a way out. There is a way out in the background of the card, but the person is not interested in being involved in that. So maybe a lot of the populace is going to feel like they're stuck, like they're really worried, or they can't see a way out, or they can't get out. So sometimes the cave means hunkering down in terms of big storms that can be coming as well. We've seen this card turn up before when things like the Sandy Hook storm in America came in. So this can mean big wind events, and it's sitting right under this card, this fortune card. So some people might go into hiding in a big wind or storm event and get trapped or be blocked in or locked in, and it could be unexpected. So it could be along the coastlines of countries where the seas come in and create a lot of ingress, and that's what the moon card might reference. So the moon card can mean issues to do with our seas or waters or bodies of water, even lakes, oceans, rivers. It can also mean to do with the moon, clearly, and sometimes this is the full moon. I'm not sure if April is a super full moon, but sometimes in the super moons we get extended king tides, and if we get storms involved with that, then it can really create mayhem in terms of weather. Sometimes this can refer to the areas of the Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn that could suffer the most in terms of weather systems or storms or displacement somehow along those lines. This can also mean quake-related issues in the sea, so sea quakes that could create movement in the water, like possible tsunamis, and again possibly along that Tropic of Cancer or Capricorn area. The moon is also about emotions and feeling very vulnerable and feeling very watery, you know, like soulful and a bit down and a bit moody and out, not necessarily out of balance, but very easy to be down, you know, easy to feel down. And the last card that was sitting over the moon was the Liar. So the moon could also reference things to do with the moon, such as moon technology or satellites or missions to the moon. You know, various countries are trying to get people or technology or satellites up to the moon for more surveys and information. So it could be going along those lines as well. Maybe there's something we find out about the moon that we haven't known about, or new information or understanding that could come in as well. But the Liar card I often think of in two dynamics, and one of them is shaking and earthquakes. So that Liar sitting on the moon may reference too that there are some earthquakes, and if we see that this is really rocking, this rainbow effect on the desk. This is going crazy. It is because I have a fan on, in case you're wondering, and the fan is actually blowing the crystal that's hanging in the sunlight, but it's not blowing it that much. Yeah, so the Liar can represent shaking and quaking, and because it's sitting on the moon, it might, on the moon card where the water is, it might represent earthquakes in the sea and possible or potential tsunamis. The Liar can also represent a situation where lying has occurred, and oftentimes I think of these as being not just so much your average person or citizen of Earth, but a big political leader. So a political leader who's been involved in some lying scenario, or hiding something or keeping something from the public. So there's that possibility and scenario that goes on with it. I often think of the fact that if there are earthquakes at this point in time, that houses and buildings can also be affected, so not just the oceans, but houses actually shaking and being damaged. So there we go, guys, that's the April Earth predictions. I certainly think from these ones over here there is a feeling of overall sort of, well, these two top ones in particular, it's calm and sort of controlled, and then the two bottom ones are just boding some sort of positivity or victory or movement or feeling like rah rah, yay, we beat it. So I think we will see a change in energy coming in April. It may not be at the very beginning, and for each country this might be a little bit different, but I think we're turning the tide and we see some positivity coming in terms of the pandemic and the grip it's had on us all and the collective conscious energies. So thanks for tuning in. Leave your comments. I love reading them. So does everyone else. And take care. Be safe and be well, and be kind to yourself and everyone else around you. Much love, everyone. Namaste.